What's the most messed up / inappropriate thing that someone's casually said to you? People don't take me seriously because I'm pretty. You're so lucky not to have that problem. I had a dentist say that I needed to work on that for when I had a boyfriend when I was gagging during whatever the hell he was doing. I think I was 11. I did not understand it at all until I was much older and saw like the second episode of Glee where a gag reflex comment is made. I asked my mum about it and she explained and I was like, oh, is that why dentist said this? She was not thrilled that I'd waited so long to tell her. Not to me, but to a casual friend of his, and I overheard. Two girls in my high school were chatting about guys they dated and one mentioned she tended to date older guys. I'm thinking 1 to 2 years. But nope. She said the oldest guy she ever dated when she was 15 was 34. Her friend just stared at her, mouth agape, and the girl said, no, it was fine. He thought I was 18. She looked 12 when I overheard her, so I really doubt that. I was packing up files and my boss said I looked good on my knees. Middle of a grocery store. I'm 18 or 19. A man 50 plus years old walks up to me, puts his arm around my shoulders, stares down at my breasts, and says, damn, girl, can you see your feet? I vaguely remember this time I was a kid, and I told this adult friend of my dad's that I slept in a funny position. Basically I slept in a lotus position, but my feet are together. He looked over to my dad and said something like her future husband will like that. It's so weird and random, and I didn't get it back then when I was a kid. But you know your mind stores random moments, and that one came back up when I was much older and I cringed thinking about it. My nan's sister, at our first meeting, said to 14-year-old me, you looked like a fat leek butt in Dutch. I was flabbergasted. Fun fact, when she died a couple of years ago, during the funeral, her daughter gave a speech and told a lot of secrets about how her mum was a total bitch and narcissist, abused her and made her life a living hell. The whole church was in shock, and they sort of cancelled the funeral due to all the consternation. I had a serious accident a month before my now ex best friend whispered to me, I wish you died that day. I was stunned and internally questioning if I heard her right, but there was no mistaking what she said. It was very clear. In the months leading up to my accident, she had been in a weird headspace. I know she resented me, even though she denied it, because I didn't walk out with her when she quit her job at the company we both worked at. I haven't talked to her since she said that to me. It hurt a lot when my mom would get drunk and cry to me that she wishes I had passed away instead of my father. It hurt a lot more when she said it offhandedly and sober though. I'm okay now, but fuck, man. I was 7. I didn't deserve that shit. Had an ex who requested that I keep the push-up bra on during the fun times because my breasts were disappointing, like opening a bag of Lay's. Edit, my goodness, thank you for the replies. I had a good laugh. Looking back, it was a hilarious burn, but at my expense, so it wasn't funny at the time. He was my first serious boyfriend and because of him, I've never worn a bra out in public since. I'm in my 30s and happily married. Lol, I have bralettes for tops that are too sheer, but that's it. No underwires or push-ups. I'm a rake-up and have grown to love them. Now everyone knows how small they are. I'm Asian. Is your pussy slanted like your eyes? Update for context, since a lot of you asked what that even means. They have this belief that our vaginas are slanted upwards, as if when guys enter us, it'll pivot their penis upward and not straight, thus giving them more pleasure. Like, seriously? Throughout dating, I have asked my partners if they felt that was true and nope, not at all. Even they were questioning / angry at who would even ask me that. I was working at a grocery store, setting up shampoo on a display table, so I was kneeling on the floor. Some old guy just randomly comes up to me and says, oh, it's nice to see a young lady on her knees. I jumped up so fast and got in his face and told him, you've got no right speaking to me like that. What is wrong with you? He just stood there, in shock, I suppose. I did too. I've never reacted that way, ever. Non-sexual encounter. I opened up to someone about my brother who attempted to commit suicide, and a week later I was ranting about some obscure nonsense. Or was I just explaining it excitedly? I can't remember, but I was definitely just being myself, and he jokingly said, "I can see why your brother wanted to kill himself." I still don't know if he was saying that I was the reason my brother tried to end his life, or if he was saying that my wacky behavior somehow runs in the family, but I tried to avoid him after that. I was 15 at the time. We had new neighbors move in, and the dad was super creepy towards me. He always commented on my outfits and even asked me to dinner once. I was thoroughly freaked out by him, and one day, his wife and daughter just left. He was out of town for a few days, and they got a moving truck and skedaddled. It was odd to say the least, but even being that young I had suspicions that he was inappropriate to his daughter. Anyways, when he got back he was completely blindsided and came over asking us if we knew anything. He said to me, in front of my mom, that I should come over to cheer him up sometime, to which I promptly bailed and went inside. Later that afternoon I tried to talk to my mom about how creepy he was, and that's why I thought his wife and daughter left, and she said to me, "Well, you sit outside looking like a slut all the time. What do you think he's going to say to you?" I still have many issues with her. That was only one of the many times she called me a slut, and it greatly affected my self-esteem for a very long time. Part of me wants to bring it up and get some kind of closure, or maybe even an apology, but I know she'll say it never happened, or I'm being dramatic. I have a teenage daughter, and I wouldn't dream in a million years to ever say anything so damaging to her, and if a creepy guy ever said anything like that to her, I would put his ass in its place quick as hell. We were leaving a concert venue and a coworker saw a few homeless people outside of the van. There were I think 6 people in the van. He just turns to us all and says very loudly and seriously that homeless people should just be killed, just taken out and shot. I told him to fuck off and that it wasn't okay to say that. He said he could because his mom was homeless and he wanted her to get shot too. I quit the job that night. Never looked back. Fuck you, scene. Old childhood friend casually said, "I would make you bend me over and fuck me if you were into guys." He was in a relationship at the time. The stuff he said got even more extreme from there until it got into sex offender territory. For example, when I didn't tell him my dick size, he decided to wake my girlfriend up at 4 in the morning with spam texts begging her to send him my penis measurements. Definitely not the most fuck moment, but the first that came to mind. I've always had issues with my weight, and in high school I was involved in a lot of activities, mostly music or theater related, which meant I had teachers/directors/conductors pulling me out of class a lot to practice or do something artsy. One day in class I got a text from my friend saying my music director asked if I could come up to practice something really quickly. My teacher knew and didn't mind my leaving. She casually mentioned the elevator was out of order, but seeing as we were on the 3rd floor and I was going up to the 4th, it wasn't a huge bummer. Not to mention, students weren't allowed to use the elevators, so I was always running up and down 4 flights of stairs. I shrugged off the comment and left. When I got back a few minutes later, one of the kids next to me said that after I left the teacher said to the entire class she could use some exercise anyway. The stairs will do her some good. I was never nice to her again. I was always polite, but never nice, and I'm sad to admit that at the time I had ill wishes for her. I lost my baby in what I've been calling spontaneous abortion/late term miscarriage because it's easier to explain than what really happened. I was 16. I went back to school a few days after, depressed as hell and only wanted my son. I wrote a lot in my diary about it, including this. A guy that was friends with and formerly neighbor to my cousins heard about my loss from my cousin during the time I wasn't in school. He approached me and said, "Hey, I heard you're really upset about your son. I could knock you up again. I'll come in you until we are successful. You don't even have to do anything back. I'll just keep going. I can even keep you in my room. My parents travel a lot, so I'm usually home alone. I wouldn't stop until you're for sure pregnant." What the fuck? I didn't even know how to reply. I just ran to a classroom and stayed there until lunch was over. So, you're 17. Wow, you'd be pretty cool if you were a little older and less gay. Random creepy guy at a bus stop when I was 17 who then followed me down the street to the library. Lost sight of him eventually, but I was too creeped out to leave, so I just sat in the library for 4 hours and missed half my classes. A close second from one of my drunk uncles about my stretched earlobes. Whenever I see people with ears like that, I always think, wow, their parents must not care about them enough. He said it in front of my father at Christmas dinner. Like and subscribe for more edit videos.